Chapter 14 of The Brand of Silence. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Roger Moline. The Brand of Silence by Harrington Strong. Chapter 14. More Mystery. Jim Farland went from the hotel to Coadley's office to ascertain whether the attorney's private investigators, who were working independently of him, had unearthed anything of importance in connection with the case. Sidney Prale stated that he would go for a walk, and the police detective, now thoroughly convinced that he would not try to run away, raised no objection. It was Prale's intention to make an attempt to meet Kate Gilbert. Murk hurried around getting his coat and hat and gloves and stick. "Fool idea," Prale told himself. "Kate Gilbert has given me the cold shoulder already, and she certainly will do it now, since I stand accused of murder. Not a chance in the world of getting better acquainted with her now." "What do you want me to do, boss?" Murk asked. "I don't seem to be amounting to much in this game. I'd like to be in action, I would. Can't I take a hand?" "As soon as possible," Prale told him. "Remember, Farland said he wanted you to help him later." "I'd rather help you or work alone," Murk said. "I reckon he is pretty decent for a detective, but I don't put much stock in any of 'em." Prale laughed as he finished dressing, put on his hat and gloves, and reached for his stick. "Suppose you just shadow me this fine day," he told Murk. "Get a little practice in that line. Don't bother me, but just follow and watch." "I get you, boss. You want me to be within hailin' distance in case you need help." "Exactly, Murk. We never can tell what is going to happen, you know. I may need you in a hurry." "I'll be on hand," Murk promised. Sidney Prale went down in the elevator, Murk going down in the same car. Prale lounged about the lobby for a time, and Murk made himself as inconspicuous as possible in a corner. Prale believed, as Farland had intimated, that he was being followed and watched, possibly by the orders of George Lerton, his cousin. He did not know why Lerton should have done it, but it angered him, and he wanted to discover the man following him. He saw nobody in the lobby who appeared at all conspicuous, and after a short time he left and started walking briskly down the avenue, like any gentleman taking a constitutional. The midday throngs were on the streets. Prale was forced to walk slower, and now and then he stopped to look in at a shop window. Once in a while he stepped to the curb and glanced behind. But if there was a shadow, Prale did not see him. He did see Murk, however, and he smiled at Murk's methods. Murk remained a short distance behind him, moving up closer whenever Prale was forced to cross the street, so he would not lose him in the throng. Murk was ordinary looking and had a happy faculty of effacing himself in a crowd. He was on the job every minute, watching Sidney Prale, glancing at every man or woman who approached Prale or as much as looked at him. Prale reached 42nd Street, crossed it, and came opposite the library. He glanced aside and saw Miss Kate Gilbert walking down the wide steps. It was a ticklish moment for Sidney Prale, but he remembered that he was fighting to protect himself. If Kate Gilbert ignored him, he could not help it. At least he would give her the chance. She could not avoid seeing him, for they met face to face at the bottom of the steps. Prale lifted his hat. "Good morning, Miss Gilbert," he said. She turned and met his eyes squarely, and he could see that she hesitated for a moment. Then her face brightened, and she stepped toward him. "Good morning," she replied, "although it is a little after noon, I'm afraid." Her words might have been for the benefit of any who heard. They were light enough and cordial enough, but she did not offer him her hand, and the expression on her face was scarcely one of welcome. "I'm glad to see you again," Prale said. "You are settled and feeling at home?" "In a measure," he said. She had not mentioned the crime of which he was accused, and he did not wish to be the first to speak of it. She stepped still closer. "I want to talk to you, Mr. Prale," she said. "Kindly get a taxi and have the chauffeur drive us through the park." Prale scarcely could believe his good fortune. He had doubted whether he would have a chance to talk to her, and here she was asking him to engage a taxicab so that they could enjoy a conversation. He hailed a passing taxi, put her in, gave the chauffeur his directions, and sprang in himself. The machine turned at the first corner and started back up the avenue in the heavy traffic. "You wish to speak to me about something in particular?" Prale asked. "Yes. I have read of the crime of which you are accused. I am sure that you are not guilty." "Thank you, Miss Gilbert. I assure you that I am not. It is an unfortunate affair, which we hope to have cleared up within a short time." "I hope that you will be free soon," she said. "And then you will be able to enjoy yourself, I suppose." "I hope to have my vacation yet," Prale said. "You are going to remain in New York?" "Certainly. It is my home." "Sometimes a man does better away from home." "But I have been away from home for 10 years. I have made my pile, as the saying is, and have come home to show off, and lord it over my neighbors," Prale replied, laughing. They had reached the lower end of Central Park now, and the taxi turned into a driveway, and made its way around the curves toward the upper end. The chauffeur was busy nodding to others of his craft and paying no attention to his fares. Sweethearts, he supposed, talking silly nothings as they were driven through the park. The chauffeur was used to such. He hauled many of them. Kate Gilbert leaned a bit closer to Prale, and when she spoke it was in a low, tense voice. "Go away from New York, Mr. Prale." "Why should I do that?" he asked. "It would be better for you, I feel sure." "Because of the absurd charge against me? I intend to have my innocence proved, and I'd hate to run away and let people think that perhaps I was guilty after all." "You have the right to prove your innocence of such a charge to all the world," she said. "But after you have done it conclusively, you should go away." "Why?" he asked again. "Because you have enemies, Mr. Prale." "I have discovered that, but I do not know why I should have enemies." "Perhaps you did something, sometime, to create them." "But I haven't," Prale declared. "Retribution comes when we least expect it, Mr. Prale." "Yes. I believe that you wrote that in one of your notes." He had said it, and Jim Farland had told him not to let her suspect that they knew. Well, he couldn't help it now. Kate Gilbert gasped and sat back from him. "In my note?" she said. "The notes interested me greatly, Miss Gilbert. I have saved them. But why should you send them to me?" "You can ask me that?" she exclaimed. "So you know that I wrote them, do you? In that case, Mr. Prale, you know why I spoke of retribution. You probably know my identity and intentions, and you know why you have enemies." "But I do not," he protested. "Please do not attempt to tell a falsehood, Mr. Prale. You know I wrote the notes, do you? Then you know everything else. So you are going to fight." "I fail to understand all this." "Another falsehood!" she cried. "I have asked you to leave New York, and I fail to see why I should." "Then remain, and receive the retribution," she said. "You will deserve all you get, Sidney Prale. When I think of what you have done—" She ceased speaking, and turned to glance through the window. "You were kind enough to say that you believed me innocent of the murder charge." "I do. I hate to have you facing a thing like that when you are innocent. But this other thing is—" Can't you explain? I give you my word.